This video is going to be a demonstration of a program that I've been developing for a number of years called OpenLogos, which is meant to help in analyzing non-structured textual databases. This is a Portuguese version, Windows 7. Ignore the messages, they're not going to be in English. I'm going to show the whole procedure since the installation. I've already downloaded the program. The URL from which to download will be present at the same place as this video. You just click on it, authorize, choose the language English, and here we go. This is the standard, the new General Public License version 3. I agree. If not, you cannot use the program, and it's installed. Now we're going to run it. You can see here to the left, it's already added an icon to the desktop. You can choose the first time you run the program which language you want to use. In our case, it's going to be English. And there we are. I'm going to close for the moment. Windows Explorer, I'm going to read it in a few seconds. The main file that we're going to be working with in OpenLogos is called the database. It's a collection of documents called items. And the first thing we have to do is to create a database. The comments in the program can be either accessed through this menu over here, which functions in a standard way, or through the buttons down here, which have the same functions. And if you leave the cursor of the mouse cursor of the button, you're going to have a small text explaining what it does. In this case, we're going to create a new database. A database is just a file that's going to contain a little information. You have to define an alias. An alias is just going to be the name by which the database is going to be identified within the program. So we're going to call this one test. And we have to define a physical file in the disk where it is going to reside. So in this case, we're going to get the documents and can choose any name you wish. And I'll use example database. And here we are. And we have a small field for a description. An example database for testing. This is important. Of course, if you just have one, it doesn't make much sense. But if you start having a considerable number of databases, it's interesting to have the explanation, the small text. It's a sort of message to yourself for what it serves for, especially if you're going to work in a large team with more people using the same set of databases. Now we have to confirm choices. I'll close this for a second. You can see that the database was created. It has the alias which shows the date it was created, the date it was modified, and a description. Now I have to open it for editing, which I use this button here, and we go back to that screen that we've seen before. This is inside a database. I'm going to have a collection of documents. Each document can be any kind of text. Can be the transcript of an interview, can be an article, can be a document, whatever you want. The only requirement is that it has to be a simple text file. If you wanted to import it, I'm going to show it right now. The first thing we have to do is to create a new document. Similarly, I have to define an item name, and in this case the item is going to identify the document within the database. So I cannot have two documents with the same item name. I have to choose carefully, and this is going to be first. Description is first item in database. Of course, it can be anything you want, and here you can select a date. Let's just select a date from last year for purposes of demonstration. And then you have this new screen here, which is the document editing screen window. And we have the regular buttons that you would expect in a text editor: cut, copy, paste, and do. You can enter text as if you'd like. It's not very efficient to do so. It's not a full-fledged text editor. So I would suggest you to use the importing facility. And here we're going to import a file into the document. But in order to do that, I'm going to show quickly how to do it. First of all, I have to have a document. I have a few of them here, which were created with LibreOffice and have the ODT extension, meaning the open document. We can open them with WordPad, and then we can choose to save them, save as plain text document with the extension txt. So I'm going to do it for the three of them. I save the first one. I'm going to do the same thing with all of them. Here we are. It tells me that it's going to do away with all formatting. I do want to do that. And finally, the last one, just for the case of curiosity, these are articles that I have previously published. And here we have save as. Sorry for that. And here we have, for each ODT document, now I have a txt text document, plain text document, which I can now import. So I'm going to click on the import file into document button. It's going to show me. I'm going to choose the first one, could be any of them, and it's been imported. We'll stop here for now. The next thing we can do, we have three buttons here that finish the work we are doing. One of them, you can save and keep on working. The other one, you're gonna save and close the document you're working on, and the last one is going to close the document and abandon changes. This is very dangerous, should be used carefully. You're going to lose any editing you've done since the last time you saved, so what we wanted to save and close. Now, we have now, here we have the first item in database. Now we're going to do a few more of them. I'll call this one second. It will be the second document in database. Don't mind if I do any typos, I'm a very lousy typist. I'm going to import the same way I did with the other one. Oh, sorry, wrong button. Here I have another one, I'm going to save. And finally, the last one, the third. I'm going to put a different date on this one. It's going to be 2 years ago. You'll understand why in a few moments. And that's it. So we now have three items. The first thing I would ask you to pay attention to is that we have three columns and we have the name of the first column in brackets. This means that these items are ordered by this field. If I choose description, in this case it won't change because it's the same order, but look what happens if I click into date. It changed the order. Now third is the first one because it's the most remote date. This is formatted according to Brazilian standards. So so far there's nothing really much interesting that we've done, but here it begins to get interesting. I select the first one, I click here, I select the whole line, and then I can open it for editing. I'm going to maximize. So I have the text here, and we already talked about these buttons here. This is a button for searching, another for searching and replacing, not much else to do about it. This one we've seen, you import a file into the document. This one allows you to export whatever the contents are to another file. We've seen the three ones, the one to save and keep working, save and close, close and abandon changes. This one allows you to change the properties, but not the item name. This is unchangeable while it resides in the database. You can change the description and even the date, but nothing else. One thing that we're going to do that this is used for is for content analysis of a type that you use coding schemes. You can select here any bit of text that you want and attach a code to it. How we do this? We're going to click on the beginning of the text fragment that we want to mark. We're going to select it by scrolling, by dragging the mouse, still clicking, still holding the button, and then releasing it. Now I have selected, which is just a regular operation in Windows. I'm going to click on the insert tag button, and then it gives me this window where I can create new codes. I could have done this in advance. I could have a set of codes. I'm going to create a new one from the start. You have three buttons: one to add code, another one to edit the current code, and the last one to delete it. And I'm going to add a test code. The name of the tag should be only letters, no space between them. Just an example. The definition is basically meant to define the tag that you're using. It's a category that you're tagging the selected fragment of text with. And it's important for later on when you're going to describe your work to someone else, or if you're going to work in a team, you have to make sure that everyone understands the same things about the categories they're working with. I click here, I have created the new code, and then you'll see that it changes. There is a mark at the beginning, at the end of the text. If I click on it, I have access to the window showing the definition. I can do this again on another one. And I'll do with another one. In this case, I'm going to, oops, sorry for that. I'm going to create a new one. And then I'll keep doing this with all the documents I have in my database. I'll code all the sections that I find that are important. When I'm finished with one document, I'll do this, and I'm going to do the same thing with the second document. Oh, sorry for that. Click on the wrong button. I'll do the same thing. I'm going to mark this one just for a change. I'm going to use test code first, and then I'll get here. Mark it with the first code, and finally so this is just I'm quickly going over it, just selecting at random some paragraphs, but in actual work you'd be reading, you would know all the documents that are in the database, and I'm going to be selecting the text and tagging them according to whatever research you're doing at the moment. I'm going to add a tag here, and finally, just for the sake of it, another one. And I click here, and there we are. Okay, well, now I have my database with the documents in it. They were all marked. I'm going to close this for just a second. Before that, we've seen these are you can open a document, you can create a new document. We've seen those already. You can find a document here with just three. This is kind of silly, but you have tens or hundreds of documents that you have to go through a database, and the database can hold a lot of stuff. It helps to have this, and that's the reason why you can change the ordering. The search function is going to be done on the column that is active for the ordering. So if I try to search now, I would search for item. If I did that, I would search in the description and so on and so forth. Here I leave this window, I leave the screen, and I close the database. We're going to see the other buttons in just a moment. And here I can have access to the code book outside the editing window. This can be useful. Let's suppose that you already know the codes that you're going to use, at least some of them, so you can enter them and then start doing the coding process. You don't have to wait to open the first document to do so. Now, what do I do with this? The first thing that I can do is to create some tabulations. The first of them, I can count the frequency of words in the whole database. And you can see, for instance, abandoned shows just one time in the whole database. accomplishments as well. According, you have 4 occurrences of it in the whole database. Account, you have 4 as well, and so on and so forth. You have, for instance, adoption, you have 8 times in the third document and 8 times in the database, and you can keep on looking. So you see all the words that are contained in the database. You can save the contents of this spreadsheet into a file with the extension CSV. That's comma separated values. It can be opened by any spreadsheet program such as Excel, and you can use that for doing some sort of statistical calculation if you like. Now, the other thing you can do is tabulate for codes, and here we can see the first code that we created occurs 3 times in the database, once in each document. Sorry. The second occurs 3 times, twice in the first and just once in the last one. And finally, the last tag that we created is present just in once in the whole database. At the same token, I can create a comma separated value file, export that, and use that. I can use that for doing, for instance, component analysis or some other kind of statistics with it, of co-occurrence of the codes within the records. Aside from that, the other thing I can do is to extract the selections. So I can choose 1, 2, a few, all of them of the tags I want to work with. So I'm going to get the first one we created, and what it does, it goes through the whole database. For each document, it creates a header like this. For each code, sorry, the code, between brackets you have the code, then the definition of the code, and then you have begin item first. Within brackets, it's the name of the item, and you have the market segment is copied here. So we had 2 segments. Here's the first one, then the second one. Then here we end the first item, we begin the second, and then we have 1 fragment of text, and that's it, and nothing for the third. So I could do this for all of them. So we retrieve all text fragments as once, and here we are. So we have the first tag, the second tag, so on and so forth. Once I have done this, I can either copy it to the clipboard and paste it on my document, or save it as a text, a simple text file with no formatting. Another important thing, the only button I haven't mentioned so far, we have 2. One of them is that you can import data from another database. This is very important. I don't have another database here. I'll use the same one. Can import file into itself. Okay. If I had another database, I'd show it. You can select. You can do a selective importing from another database. You can import just the tags if you wanted. So if you're working on a team and you have a set of tags, the person can export the database to you, and then you get just the tags that interest you. And you can choose whether they are going to overwrite or be ignored in the case they already exist in the current database. And this one is very interesting because inside the database actually there are 3 files. One of them contains the items per se. The second one contains the tags. And the third one is a file of the links between the 2. If for any reason, a power outage or a failure of the program, it might happen that those 3 might go out of sync and everything would be messed up. So what this does is to recreate the links and guarantee that they are in sync between the 2. So one interesting side effect of that is that, for instance, let's suppose that by accident I had erased this tag, which is still present within the database, and now I'm going to run the check database integrity. Okay, it ended, and if I go back to the code book, I can see that the tag that I had erased has been restored. The definition was lost. That unfortunately there's no way to put, but it puts recovered code. So if by any chance you commit this kind of error, it's going to be, you can recover from it, at least partially. And I'm going to close this database, and the only thing that remains to see now is that we have these two buttons. You have the possibility of making a backup of all databases. So if you have a whole list of database here, you click here, you make a big zip file containing all of them that you can store wherever you want, and I advise doing so. Always make backups. Here you can restore a database. Here you remove a database, and there's one thing: when you remove a database, you don't actually erase the physical file. The only thing you do is remove the database from this list. And this button here about the program gives you the information about the version, etc., and some other data. This is important in case you have a bug or anything that you want to report. It's important for you to tell me which version you're running. And for now, this is what I have to present. I hope you enjoy using the program. Thank you for your attention.